This is Google Classroom. Scroll down till it says T-shirt competition. And we're going to select Theater Vector Silhouette Icon Google search. When you get this screen, remember, I've been saying this for a week and a half. We're not looking for something with multiple images. We're looking for one image. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Tools. I'm going to select Size, larger than 1024 by 768. For color, I'm going to select black and white. And then because I know what I'm looking for, I want to do an icon for stagecraft. So up here at the top, next to the word icon, I'm going to click one time, hit the space bar, and type in stage lights. So if you'll notice, more icons came up that had multiple things in there, but all of these at the top are just one item. Even though there's multiple lights, it's one object, one art. I want you to roll your mouse over this one on the right-hand side. And if you'll notice, it's 3106 pixels by 1104 pixels. As far as the computer's concerned, that's bigger than my arm stretched out right now. It's bigger than 6 feet, that graphic right there. It's too big for our purposes, so we're going to click on this one on the left. That's 1600 pixels by 1200 pixels. Remember, we're not doing a screen capture because a screen capture is low resolution, and we want a high resolution image. So on the right-hand side, click where it says View Image. And you should notice, if you look really closely, there's actually color in here. The computer didn't know that there was more color in there, so it put it with the black and white images. But that's okay, we're going to get rid of that. Hold the Control key down on the keyboard, click on the image, and select Save Image As. When the text is highlighted like this, like it is in the top of the window, you don't have to delete it first, you can just start typing. So you're going to type your first initial and last name, underscore, P6, underscore, and you can either put stage lighting or stagecraft or whatever you want that relates to stagecraft. I'm going to put in stagecraft, one word. And since mine doesn't add it automatically, I'm going to add .jpg because this is a JPEG image. And I'll explain what that is in a little while. On the left-hand side, my computer already has selected the desktop, so I'm just going to click Save. I'm going to tab over to my desktop to make sure that it's saved. And this is period 6. So here's my icon here, up in the top right-hand corner. If you saved it to the desktop, that's where it'll go. If there's other stuff on the desktop, we'll delete it later. But for now, I'm going to tab back over by holding the Command key down with my thumb and tabbing back over to my browser. I'm using Safari because I'm logged into a student's account. You should be in Google Chrome. So I'm going to close this image by clicking the X on this tab. I'm going to close this one. Now I'm back to Google Classroom. I'm going to scroll all the way to the top to the Vectorizing Silhouettes assignment, and I'm going to click Free Online Raster to Vector Converter. There's a few different ways that you can upload files. One of them is by reducing the size of the window and dragging it into this area. But the first thing you always want to do is right underneath where it says Smoothness, change PDF to AI, which stands for Adobe Illustrator. PDF stands for Portable Document Format. A PDF can be read on any machine that has Adobe Acrobat on it. So it can be on an IBM computer, it can be on a Windows machine, it can be on a Macintosh, it can be on what's called a Unix-based machine, which is a really high-end machine, or it can be stored on the web without any difficulty. Anybody downloading a PDF, if they have Adobe Acrobat on their computer, they can read it, they can print it. You can also create forms. So you can actually go online, click on the forum, type in all the information, and print it from the computer. So I'm just actually going to drag it right in here. I'm going to click it right off the desktop and drag it right on top of where it says Choose File. You'll notice that it's selected because the Choose File button will highlight. You'll also know that it's in there because now you can read the same file name here. I'm just going to click Trace. It's uploading the file to the internet right now. It's auto-tracing it. Auto-tracing is another word for vectorizing. So when you auto-trace an image, it vectorizes it. Okay, my computer is actually set up differently than yours. Yours may or may not do this. When I download, bless you, when I download an AI file from the web, or an SVG file, or a PDF, or in some cases a JPEG, it automatically opens up the application that's associated with that. So in this case, it's Adobe Illustrator, and it's opening the image. I'm going to close this window because yours may or may not have done that. I'm going to click on my browser, and I'm going to quit the browser. We're not going to need it for a while until the end of class. So I'm going to hold the Command key down and tap the letter Q for quit. And it'll close the application. I'm going to click one time on the desktop. I'm going to hold the Command key down and hit the letter N. N is for New Folder or New Folder Window. My computer defaults to this particular view. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on Downloads because that's where it downloaded to. Whenever files are downloaded from the application that auto-traces them, it throws it in the Downloads folder, and there are other files in here already called tracing. The one that I just did is tracing -3. It's the third one I've traced. Every time you trace another file, it adds a number to it because it doesn't want to overwrite the old one, meaning it's not going to replace the old one. It's just going to add a number to it so that you know that it's the same one. I'm going to reduce the window down. And since I don't like to type that much, I prefer not to. I'm going to click one time over here on this file, hit the return key on my keyboard. It's going to highlight the text. I'm going to copy the text by holding the Command key down and hitting the letter C for copy. Then I'm going to go back to my Downloads folder, click on the one that's labeled tracing -3.ai, and hit the return key again. Now that that text is highlighted, I'm going to hold the Command key down and hit the letter V and return. Then I'm going to take this file out of here and put it on the desktop so it's easy to find. And since I didn't do it before, I'm going to delete all of these by highlighting them all, holding the Command key and hitting the delete key. Remember, that only deletes them, it only puts them in the trash can. If I click on the trash can over here on the right-hand side, these are all the files that I've thrown away, but I haven't emptied the trash yet. So I'm going to go up to the Finder menu in the top left-hand corner and select the one that says Empty Trash. And then I'm going to empty the trash and close this window. Because of the way the computer works, yours might take a minute. All I have to do to open up this Adobe Illustrator file is double-click it. Okay, notice. See how the picture's cut off here? I'm holding the Command key down on my keyboard, and I'm tapping the minus key. It's not reducing the image itself, it's reducing the view, so I'm zooming out. There's a lot of things on Adobe Illustrator, so I'm just going to walk you through them. If you roll your mouse over anything in Adobe Illustrator and you hover, meaning if you just stay there, a little box pops up and it tells you what the tool's called. And it shows you what the keyboard shortcut is. So the keyboard shortcut for the selection tool is the letter V. Just so that you can see what I'm talking about, I'm going to roll over the size tool, or the scale tool. the letter is S. So if I want to tap around on keys instead of having to go all the way over here, can y'all see this monitor right here that I'm pointing to? This is a 27-inch monitor. You're on a 21-inch monitor. When you're working on a large monitor like this, or if you've ever seen 2 or 3 monitors side by side, some people like to have several monitors so they can put all their menus on one monitor and have the workspace on another monitor. One way around having to have multiple monitors is by using keyboard shortcuts. So I currently have the scale tool selected. If I'm working over here and I don't want to move my mouse all the way back over to the left side, I just tap the letter V and it selects the selection tool. I'm going to click on this white box around these lights and just delete it with the delete key on the keyboard. Everybody see that? If you notice on this image, there's some white things on here. Those are white shapes that were cut out when we auto-traced it, but they're actually separate shapes from the black shape that's behind it. If you think about it, it's like they took and cut out the black shape out of black construction paper, and then they cut out the white shapes and placed it on top of that one. So what we're going to do is we're going to select everything on this page by holding the command key down and hitting the letter A, which is select all. I'm going to go up to my window menu at the very top of the screen up here, click on window, go all the way down to where it says Pathfinder. The Pathfinder is a tool that's going to show up on the right side of my screen as soon as I click Pathfinder. This is called a palette. You guys know what a palette is? A palette is one of those things that an artist holds that he mixes his paint on before he puts it on the canvas. This one is called the Pathfinder palette. And right below the word Pathfinder, I'm going to put my mouse over here and not click it. It tells me that this is the exclude key, or the exclude tool. Watch what happens when you click on it. It took those things that were white on top of the black shape and it punched a hole in it. So that now this image is transparent. The gray that you're seeing behind the image is what's called the desktop. So that rectangle down there below is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. That image, which is massive, it's probably about 15 inches wide or 20 inches wide. We're going to reduce it down, put it on the paper. But first we're going to color it black. On the top of your screen on the right-hand side, this is called your palettes menu or your palettes toolbox. The very top one is the color palette. Again, if you roll over it and leave your mouse there without clicking, it'll tell you what it's called. I'm going to click the palette, and it may open up like this. If yours opened up like this, in the top right corner of every palette, there's a button that has 3 lines and a down arrow. That's your options menu for this palette. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to ask it to show options. Okay, here's where it's kind of interesting and very different than Photoshop. I have a white shape that's the cutout of those lights. I can make it any color I want just by clicking down here on the rainbow. But since I want it black, if you notice there's 3 boxes down here. The one that has the line through it means that that color has no value, or that shape has no value. It's empty. The one right next to it's black, so I'm going to click on the black one. If you do this and you don't get the result, in other words, if you click on black here and nothing seems to happen to the shape, it's because instead of having this selected up here, which is the fill is the inside, the stroke is the line around the object. So you can color it either with no fill and an outline, or you can have no outline and a fill. And in this case, we want it black, so I'm just going to click this black box right here. And now my shape is black. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to grab the scale tool. The scale tool allows me to enlarge and reduce things. The keyboard shortcut for the scale tool is the letter S. So I'm just going to tap the S on my keyboard, and you'll see it change. Notice there's a little crosshair in the middle that's blue. When I scale this, it's going to scale it to that little shape. Okay, so in order to scale this and fit it on the page at the same time, I've got the scale tool selected. I'm going to put my mouse down here near the bottom of the page. I'm going to hold the Option key down on the keyboard, which is right next to the Command key, and click right down here at the bottom of this page. This dialog box comes up and it's asking me how big I want it. Since it's working in percentages, I'm going to type in the number 20, 20, and click OK. So what it just did was it took it from that size, it reduced it down to 20% of its original size, and because of where I clicked the button, it put it in the bottom of the page. In order to see how big it is on the page, I'm going to fill the screen with the page by holding the Command key down and hitting the 0 on the keyboard, not to be confused with the O. The 0 is right above the O on the keyboard. So this is how big this image is right now. If I need it to be the whole size of the page, or at least filling up most of the page, I'm going to click one time down here underneath it. I'm going to hold the Shift key down, move my mouse up to the top and to the right of it, and click and drag while I'm holding the Shift key down, and it's going to scale it up to where it's fitting better on the page. It's a pretty good size now, so I'm going to go ahead and save it. From the File menu at the top of the screen, click on File, Save As. Make sure to do Save As, otherwise you will get this error message. It says Adobe Acrobat file format is having difficulties. File does not begin with %sign PDF. If you did that, click OK, and then go back to File, Save As. Since it's already on the desktop, I'm just going to click Save. You'll get a message that says, are you sure you want to do this? Because I'm going to replace the other file. Well, the other file I didn't work on. It's on the desktop. It hasn't been saved. So I'm going to click Replace. When you get this dialog box, just click OK. And now I'm going to quit this and load it back up to my Google Drive, and I'm also going to turn it in Google Classroom. So I'm going to quit this application by holding the Command key down and hitting the letter Q for quit. Then I'm going to go back into my browser, which I closed before, so now it's going to open it back up and I have to log back into Google Drive and Google Classroom. So I'm logging into a student's account who I have permission to use so that you can see what it should look like on yours. It would look completely different on mine because I'm not a student. I'm going to hold the Command key down and hit the letter T, which will give me another tab. You can do the same thing by clicking this plus in the right-hand corner, but because I love keyboard shortcuts, as you can probably tell, I'm going to hold the Command key down and hit the letter T, and it's going to give me another tab. And I'm just going to type in Drive. And if you notice whenever you're typing or going to websites, it'll tell you if you've been there before because it'll fill in the blank. So I can just hit Enter, and now I'm in Drive and also Classroom. I'm going to double-click the 8th grade folder because this student is in 8th grade. I'm going to click on his MMD folder, T-shirt, and now I'm going to reduce the window by clicking and dragging from the right-hand side to make the window smaller. There's a couple of ways that you can add files to Google Drive. One way is to just open up the folder. Make sure that you use the AI file. Click and drag it in there like this. As soon as you see the window change colors and you see that little box at the bottom, that you know that you've hit it on the right spot. So I'm just going to let go of the mouse. When it's done uploading, you'll see this dialog box at the bottom right corner, and there's a little green checkbox. That means it's been uploaded. So since this is a new file, and you guys may or may not have this one in here, I'm going to also save the Stagecraft JPEG that's on the top. I'm going to do that by clicking on T-shirt, which is one folder level up on the hierarchy. And then I'm going to double click the one that says Clip Art. Here's the other way that you can upload files. On the left-hand side of the screen, if you recognize this button that says New, this is how we created folders. You can also use the New button by doing New, File Upload. And then this dialog box comes up, which you've seen because it's the same one that you use when you save files, open files, etc. This is going to be very familiar to you. So from here, since I know it's on the desktop, and since I know it starts with JP or ends with .jpg, I'm just going to double click this one. And again, as soon as it's done uploading, I'll see a green arrow here, and it's done uploading. The last thing you're going to do on this particular assignment, whether it's today or Monday, if it takes that long, is I'm going to close this tab. I'm going to click back on Google Classroom. Again, remember to do your Google Classroom for this class. And the way you turn in things through Google Classroom is, look at the assignment. On the top right-hand corner, there's a button that says Open. When you click Open, it opens the assignment, which is different from when you have the assignment list. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and on the left-hand side, you can see that I've already turned in an assignment. I'm going to click the button down here that says Add. I'm going to select File. And then again, I can either upload it by clicking here, or just dragging the .ai file into the center and letting go of the mouse. Down at the bottom of this box, click on Upload. And the system's frozen. I'm going to click Add, File. I'm going to click this center box that says Select Files from your computer. And then I'm going to double click on the .ai file and select the button that says Upload. It'll tell me that it's uploaded when you see a preview here. Click on the button that says Turn In. Sometimes you have to click it twice. And then click this one for a third click. This button will change, and you'll see the word Done here with the little checkbox. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log out of this. I'm going to quit my browser. I'm going to select these files on the desktop and delete them by holding the Command key down and hitting the Delete button on the keyboard. And then the other keyboard command, if you don't recall, Command Option Shift Delete. Now the trash is empty and the file is turned in.